Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to our next webcast that we're bringing you from Travel Weekly as part of our Roadmap to Recovery series. And I'm joined today by three agents right on the front line. These are some of our most popular webcasts, I have to say, hearing from people who really are at the sharp end. So we've got Tony Mann from Idle Travel back with us again. Hello, Tony. We've got Gemma Antrobus, who's from Haslemere Travel and also from ATO Agents. And we've got Charles Duncombe, who is, of course, from Holidaysplease, and he joins us again. So thank you all. You've all been on before. Delighted to have you back. And I think that's a good thing because it can give us a bit of a measure of how you're faring a few weeks on since we last spoke to you. Gemma, I might come to you first, if I may. I guess the most recent news we've had to deal with is, well, I think as you've described it, is the sort of the quarantine hokey cokey. What's in, what's gone out again. And when we've had Portugal now safe to travel to, but of course Croatia went off the list. So I wonder how that's affected you and your business.
It still makes everything really uncertain for clients because, and there's still a misconception about Portugal as well. I had a client ring up the other day and say, great, I can go to Madeira now. And I went, you could have gone to Madeira before. You know, it's so unclear what the government are doing. And it is this, you know, in, out. It now seems to appear that we're getting an update every Thursday. So I think we're probably all sat on the edge of our seats for today to look at what we could lose today, what we could possibly gain today. And it makes it really hard when you've got really interested clients who want to travel, but they look at it and go, well, where can I go and how far ahead can I book? Because if I book now for November, is there a chance that the regulations are going to change? And the answer is yes, there is a chance that the regulations are going to change. You could book somewhere that's off the list now and it could be on the list by November, might not be. Or you could book somewhere that's on the list now and then it goes off and it comes on again and then it could go off again. And I think that's the uncertainty of, you know, for me, my clients are now sort of going, right, well, let's kind of scrap 2020 and let's think ahead to 21. So we're looking at a lot more January, February, winter sun departures for those that really haven't been able to have anything this year. And it's just, the uncertainty just continues and it's just really unhelpful. And it's unhelpful to plan as a business because you just can't manage your cash flow. You just don't know what's coming in. Everything is so much more last minute, which is understandable. So yeah, clarity would be really helpful right now.
All right, well, let's come back on to what we would like, but let's just get a take from the others. Tony, I mean, I know you sell a lot of Jet2, a lot of packages, and obviously the likes of Jet2 and TUI put flights straight on, they increased capacity out to Faro and to Portugal. Did that sort of stimulate things for your customers, or is it all a little bit too late as the summer, like Gemma says, the summer really kind of gone?
No, not to be honest. We have had some bookings straight away to Portugal. So as soon as we knew it were there, we posted on Facebook, and we've had some results. I've just had a quick look to see what we've done this week. You know, in total we've done 13 bookings this week, and actually 3 of those were to Portugal. The rest was Greece, Turkey, and then a Mexico and a Cyprus. So we did see an immediate response from it, and we've done lots of quotes to it. So yeah, because we do lots, I suppose, if you like, booking in Spain and things like that. Don't get me wrong, it's still not at the numbers where we would normally be at this point. But we've certainly, for us this week, we've had a busy week, and it's we've been doing all types of quotes. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt, obviously, how things happen is really, really frustrating. You know, they seem to give us something with one hand, but take away with the other. And yeah, any clarity, if you'd have watched some of the interviews last week with Grant Shapps, I watched one, turned it over to watch him again. He seemed to say different things on when I turned over the channel. So yeah, that is frustrating. Well, no, it's frustrating, it's maddening, to be honest. I think it's mixed messages in it, really. But for us, it's fairly buoyant. It's been non-stop this morning. The phones are non-stop. And I mean, don't
when
get me
you
wrong,
say they're non-stop, Tony, are they, when you say the phones are non-stop, and what are they asking about now? Are they still asking for last minute deals to get away, you know,
yeah,
September time?
Lots of last minute. Going this weekend.
Oh,
But
right.
that's what we're pushing, you know, but we are pushing that, and we are spending money to push that. So I suppose, you know, I've gambled, don't get me wrong, when I gambled and I was pushing Spain and then Spain got took off the list, I cried all night.
I think we
So
spoke to you
it's,
before. Do you remember? That's when we spoke to you before, and you said, I've taken a gamble. It might not work, but you've got to go for it. And then, of course, that happened. I did feel for you.
yeah, I threw myself on the bed and just cried and cried and cried. But majority of people have swapped, you know, so for us, I mean, actually, if you think of us as well, we're in Bradford, so
Yeah.
we're on special lockdowns, which what does that mean to us? So the bizarre thing to me is I can't go to the gym that's next door to me, but I can fly to Turkey or Greece to a hotel that's got a gym. How crazy is that? So I'm saying to everybody, if you can't get yourselves to gym, get yourselves off to Greece, Turkey or Portugal. I'll find you an hotel with a gym.
I mean, that is, funny enough, I've got on my list here to talk to you about the local lockdown. Charles, I will come to you in just a second. But, you know, I wondered, because obviously you're on a high street, I wondered if the local lockdown, I know it's more around going to visit friends in houses and things, isn't it? But has it affected sort of footfall and things? You know, because you were starting to see, do you remember we were talking about your queues outside your agency getting that little bit longer by the day, and we were saying that was a measure of, you know, people coming back to normality. But has the lockdown really taken things backwards, or they're just phoning you up, I guess, instead?
No, they're still coming in. I mean, it's obviously stopped the foot floor to the gym next door to me, which is a busy gym. But you know, but I'm also next to the supermarket, which luckily people are still eating. So you know, that's still quite busy. It's just the madness of the whole thing, isn't it? And it's that mixed message which we've also got. And you know, as the hokey cokey, if you want to call it, it's just absolutely crackers, and it's trying for us all to get his heads round what we think he's going to do. You know, it's just maddening at times and frustrating, and how we try to plan. And actually, mentally, it's not good for us either. You know, it's such a frustration that you know, you think we're seeing some positive things, and then next thing we wait again. We're forever on tenterhooks, I think. Thinking,
Yeah, like Gemma was saying, like today we've got probably another announcement. Okay, let's talk to you, Charles. I mean, we by all means pick up on some of the things the guys have said around the frustration, but I did particularly want to ask you, because you sent us some details this week of your sales, and Tony said his aren't back to where they were. Clearly it's not, and I know yours aren't quite back, but actually what you sent us was quite positive. You were saying things were actually a little bit more optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, during the summer, we've had pretty sort of steady increases, and July, as at the end of July, we were only 6% down on July the previous year, and usually we're obviously looking for growth rather than 6% contraction. But I was delighted with that. The challenge has been, and we saw this trajectory, we thought it was going to continue, and then obviously we've had the Spain announcement, and while we're primarily sort of a long haul agency, I think it has dampened things massively, because it's a bit like the Scarlet Pimpernel. It could strike any time, any place, anywhere, and customers never quite know which country's next on the hit list. They haven't got time to be going down lists of charts and COVID rates and all the rest of it. And so whenever any country gets sort of called out and quarantines in place pretty much overnight, I think customers then think, well, that could happen to any destination at any time. And so yeah, we'd had really strong growth up until the end of July, but it has fallen away in August. But again, during August, it's starting to recover again now. So it's this sort of zigzag line that we're continually sort of trying to climb. And that's where we are at the moment. And I think for me, the one hopeful thing is the fact we did manage to get there. I do feel there is pent up demand. I do feel there are customers who want to go abroad, as Tony said, whether they want to go to the gym or whatever. But I think the demand is there. It's just we've got to just learn to ride the waves in the meantime and deal with the chaos. And I think psychologically, sometimes it's the hope that kills you. I think we've all got to just realize it's going to be 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but we've just got to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, and what do you say then to clients, Gemma? What, like they're coming in, you've all said you've got people wanting to go. Clearly there's a demand there. And then I know you've said, well, they're now really looking for 2021. But so are you confidently now selling next year? Because I guess it could go on to next year, couldn't it? So I mean, as the expert, where they're looking to you for advice, what do you say to your customers?
I think it's the first thing is reassuring them that, you know, for me, in the last 6-7 months, I haven't had a single client who hasn't got what they wanted out of either changing or refunding their holiday. And a lot of that's down to who we work with. And sometimes the timeframes of getting their money back or what that might look like have been slightly longer than they have expected, but not a single client has not had what they set out to get in the first place. So it's reassuring clients that, you know, if this does continue any longer, we will always work on their behalf to make sure that they're happy, and whether that's moving their holiday or credit voucher or whatever that looks like. So I think first of all, there's the reassurance that you can give them that if this does continue any longer, you can help them and that you're on their side. Is then explain to them about, you know, the situation with Foreign Office regulations, and that, you know, while Spain is off the list and, you know, was on it in France and Croatia, there are still flights going, and there are still people going. It's whether they wish to take that risk, whether they have adequate travel insurance that will cover them. So it's giving them that kind of insider advice and more advice than you normally would. It's not just about the hotel or the location, it's sort of the surrounding situation. And then it's talking to them about, you know, what do they really want out of their holiday? We don't, you know, we're not a really last minute holiday type of agency. A lot of our stuff is, you know, long haul tailor made. So we're really making sure now that what they're going to get out of that first trip that they take away is, you know, absolutely what they want. And a lot of them are more than happy to spend the money because they won't have traveled for a year. By the time they take that winter sun holiday in February, a lot of them won't have been away or left the country for quite some time. So a lot of them are going, look, we don't mind how much it costs. We just want to have a really lovely holiday. And that's a really nice position to be in, is to be planning holidays in the same way that we always have done.
Yeah,
you know, it's not
back a bit of normality.
Absolutely. I don't want to be chasing round, you know, a last minute holiday they have to unpick in a week's time because, you know, Grant or Boris decides that they've changed their mind. You know, so it is just providing them with the information and just giving them the reassurance that we are the experts. This is what we do. We've been doing it now. This is not the first time we're going to have to unpick a holiday if something goes wrong. We've been doing it now for a long time. We know what we're doing. We only work with people that we trust, and that we're here for them. And you can't reassure them, and you can't give them any more reassurance than what you can do personally, because you can't tell them that it's definitely going to be okay.
No. But you can say, if it goes wrong, they will be okay because you'll look after them.
Absolutely. And you can have those conversations with the supplier as well at the time of booking. You can say, okay, so if something does happen, you know, how much of this do you think we can get back for them? How are we tied in with the airline? When is the ticketing deadline? You know, and lots of things like that. So
it's quite a big, like you said, it used to just be describing the, you know, the hotel and the resort, and now you've got this huge job to do. You've got more questions to ask of the supplier, you've got more explanation to do. I mean, it must be, I know you've possibly got more time because you haven't got quite so many bookings, but I mean, it's a headache for you all, isn't it? It's an extra level of extra layers of work you've got to do.
Yeah, and I think it's impressing upon them the importance of travel insurance. And I know we all always have, but I kind of really want to know now, what does your policy cover you for? Have you checked that it covers you for COVID before you go? Have you checked that it covers you while you're away? Because if it doesn't, go and upgrade that policy.
And we've talked about insurance on here before, and of course I know things have been evolving as this pandemic has you know, gone on, but are there now, are you finding policies or customers have got policies, or you're advising them to take ones that are giving them the full coverage? Because that was lacking obviously for some time, and then it was going to cover you if there was a problem while you're away, but not if you had a problem before you traveled. So is that all now being covered? Are you finding that people have got enough protection? Charles, you're saying not really.
No, there's the covers coming back. So from a couple of months ago, a lot of the travel insurance companies were just almost pulling out of the market and retreating. They're coming back and they're covering you now if you get COVID. So if you get COVID, they'll cover your medical expenses, they'll bring you back, they'll deal with repatriation.
So if you fall ill overseas.
If you get it, and also leading up to it as well, if you can't go because you get it and you have to cancel, then actually there are policies that are now covering that. What isn't being covered is when the government imposes stuff and you're not ill, but you cannot go on holiday because of COVID, but you haven't physically got it. So it's a quarantine or FCO advice or things that basically, well, it's because of COVID, but you haven't physically got it. They're not really covering that at the moment. I think there's one policy, but you have to take out a nationwide bank account at 10 quid a month or something like that that's going fully comprehensive. And because the odds of getting COVID are actually quite small, customers are not seeing those policies as necessarily being adequate enough. And until you get a blanket policy come out, and I'm not sure you will, that will say, look, we will cover you if you have to quarantine when you come back, or if you have to cancel and you haven't physically got COVID. So it's really difficult. And I think the role as agent is to try and get as best you can with the travel insurance that's out there, and then work with an operator to come up with, as Gemma was saying, sort of flexible terms and conditions, late ticketing, small deposits, changeable fares and everything like that, and see if you can sort of marry the two to create this holiday and insurance package that pretty much has got sort of most, if not all, bases covered for the customer. And actually advising about the destination of the hotel is almost secondary at the moment. Customers don't care. It's like, just send me somewhere, but make sure it's safe and I'll get my money back and I can change it. It's really changed, and you have to give customers a lot of reassurance at the moment. And,
yeah, I'm sure.
Certainly with us, we feel that the hotel almost is sort of secondary on this. They want to make sure that their package is safe and that they're going to be able to go there. And if they don't, that they've got some financial protection and recourse. So yeah, the role of the agent has changed immeasurably over the last few months, I'd say.
Goodness me. Okay. Would you concur, Tony? Do your customers care, or has your role changed?
I think his role has actually strengthened. We're the ones who have decided we'll look through the maze of things that they've got to do, and whether that's QR codes before they go, what they need to fill out when they're coming home. So that's our strength there as well. So actually, in some ways, it's made us more stronger, and I think for the future it definitely will. There's a lot more to it though, as everybody's saying. Trying to advise them to make sure they get the right insurance. Also, with the suppliers that we're dealing with, making sure that they're as flexible as they can be. We have to give people confidence that we try and cover all bases, if you like. I think your problem is that sometimes it's ever changing. Look at the new things regarding that certain companies that have certain airlines that are still travelling against Foreign Office advice. And now I had an agent call me yesterday to ask about the advice over one who's done the same thing and won't give the money for the flight back. So I suppose, again, going forward, as I said before, I will be looking at some operators I won't touch with a barge pole without have dealt with it. It is a thing about working together. It is a thing about looking after us customers. That's the straightforward, simple rule. And now to forever understand what is an atoll package. What is an atoll package? I'm a bit confused myself. So you want to work, we're trying to get people on holiday. We're trying for it to be as less hassle as possible, because it is about, we're selling that dream, something that's really important to people. But every time something crops up and you're thinking, oh, here we go again, what have they found now? So I think that'll be the latest thing, that certain companies are pushing back because the airlines are still flying. But yeah, but that's the strength of us finding them right partners who realise to get people to fly, we need to give them confidence, we need to give them professionalism. We've got a lot to comprehend with local lockdowns, etc., as well as when they're there. But it should fall into our strengths and
yeah.
Not.
Well, last time we spoke, you'd picked up some new customers, hadn't you? Because like you're saying, people now turning to experts like yourselves because they've had their fingers burned and they're probably still waiting for refunds. So I mean, has that continued? Are you still picking up new clients?
Yeah, luckily, and I'm not. It's weird, to be honest. It's it is weird that we're getting a lot of brand new customers that, you know, even this week, even just before I came on, we've just booked some people to Turkey who've never booked with us before. And I know that's the idea, you know, I know that's in, you know, but actually it still shocks me. It shocks me at the moment we're doing bookings anyway, I'll be honest. But I suppose we're made from strong stuff in Yorkshire, and we decided we're going for it. But yeah, to pick up the amount of new people, it does amaze me. And I know that's the idea. I am spending money on marketing, but actually, yeah, we're getting quite a lot. So in a normal environment where, you know, lots of people are doing bookings, that again, for the future is good for us, really. But I suppose on the flip side, they've had a lot of bad service, and something we do press really hard is to give them a good service. And I think in general, on a whole, independent travel agents are really, really good at that. We just need, there's a partnership with the suppliers. We need that. That's how we'll all come out of it going forward. And I've said before, those who have looked after the customers hopefully will come out the side quicker.
Yeah, and Gemma, with your ATO agents hat on and the suppliers that you work with within ATO, I mean, are you also I know it's still tough times at the minute, but do you see that sort of, you know, bearing fruit ultimately, that they'll you know, win out in the end because they've given such good service? Do you think that's happening for some of your other members?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the only thing I think that we can really give right now that, well, it's always been the thing that we can give that the internet can't give, and that's our time and our service. And, you know, I had a non-client ring up the other day who'd been searching on the internet for days for some, you know, last minute trip, and she was so confused, and it gave her no advice at all about, you know, if she had to fill in any forms or anything like that. And just a short conversation with her, and she said, I don't know why I didn't ring you in the first place. And you think, I don't know either, because that's what, you know, years and years of our experience has given us, is, you know, the ability to navigate these situations. And you might not have the exact answer straight away, but you can always find it, or you know someone who can. And, you know, all of, you know, the ATO counterparts are finding exactly the same thing. It's their service is obviously bringing their regular clients back to them, and we've started to get our regular clients that weren't affected by any of the lockdown or the FCO changes calling us and saying, right, well, we haven't had a trip because we would have normally booked it in the last few months, but we're ready now. You know, help us as you always would do, but we know that we probably need even more advice now. And that's what they trust us to do. They trust us implicitly, and they say, right, we want this type of holiday. We want to go, and what do you suggest? And, you know, we're great at that sort of stuff, and they know that we'll help them with the pre, with the during, with the after. You know, that's
problem before, I think, is we've had these incidents and people have got short memories, haven't they? But this is such a long, prolonged crisis that we're in, and obviously in real sort of public eye, because it's, you know, it's with all this quarantine stuff. So we've got to hope that this time people really did, you know, it really gets embedded into consumers, and they think, you know, they'll book with an agent in future. Let's hope so. Charles, you're nodding. Are you seeing a bit of that as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think some of the battles that we've been fighting on behalf of customers, be it against whoever and wherever, and be it travel insurance operators, hoteliers, I mean, the things that we're doing are sort of probably so far beyond what a normal travel agent would have done in normal times, that I think the loyalty that we're building up with our customers at the moment is fantastic. And even if you get a customer who starts sort of quite agitated because they want their money back or they want to change stuff, when they start to see what you can do for them, I think they realize that it's much better that they're with a travel agent who knows what they're doing, who's got buying power, who's got experience and everything like that. And so, yeah, we see our customer base as helping us drive our way through this. And I think that's perhaps why we've fared so well. And we're looking to expand. And like Tony, we're going to take a few gambles, and we've opened up some recruitment. So we've got some jobs.
Yeah, you've got six new vacancies we're looking to fill.
We've opened up some jobs at our head office in Birmingham, some home working positions that we put on the website. So we're gambling that those customers are going to be true to their word and realize that what we've done has gone over and above, and that they'll be the bedrock for future growth. So yeah, I think it's not a flash in the pan. I think this is something that's going to be ingrained in consumers' minds for years and years to come. And some of the horror stories that are out there elsewhere, I think, are really going to change customers' attitudes.
Yeah, well, it's great that you're taking a gamble. It's wonderful to have some positivity. I'm interested to know what Tony's next gamble is, because he's always got one up his sleeve. What have you been marketing? Anything particular? Are you looking ahead to winter sun now? What's your latest risk you're taking for us, Tony?
I'm praying that obviously the Canaries get the green light, but whether that's going to be the case, I don't know. But funnily enough, I am just contemplating on doing another radio campaign, and just thinking, you know, this last month or two, as I said, not only is the last minute beach stuff that we're selling, but we've had this week asked for river cruising, Kenya safari, Mexico, Bali, Maldives. So it's the mix for us as well is really, again, you know, we sell them, but not in high quantities. But so there's an appetite coming back there. And I think, as we all said, actually, what I'll take on that's positive for us is that the bad service that they've had elsewhere. And actually, that's again falling into our hands. And actually, when we are dealing with companies as self, we also realise what terrible bad service and stupidity comes across on the phone. You know, we've only this last week, we rang someone chasing a refund credit note voucher from a company, and the person on the phone said, "What's a refund credit note?" So I just,
this was from the tour operator?
This were from the tour operator last week. What's the refund credit note? Oh, I think, where have you been? And then we've had one with a cruise company chasing a confirmation with the cruise credit on, and they've said, well, it's only been 3 months. What? It's only been 3 months. So if customers are having to deal with this craziness, it's like that again falls into our hands. We can deal with all that nonsense. And then another operator, this is all the space of a couple of weeks, said a refund credit note lasts for 2 years. Yeah, fantastic. No. It's amazing what mess this industry's in, isn't it? So, but at least we can deal with all that. I'm trying not to swear on live, but on all that nonsense, you know, that's good. That's good for us. But what a state some of them are in, but we'll take that. We'll deal with all that for people. That falls into his hands. But yeah, so that's the positive I'll take. So I am willing to move. And you know, I'm going to spend some more money on marketing. It's been a good busy week for us. It's still difficult, you know. I don't think that everything's rosy. It's absolutely not. It still really is difficult.
If anyone wants to know when the next lockdown is going to be, it's wherever Tony's marketing now. Is that is that how we should?
Kiss of death. I know. When Tony does a radio campaign, that'll be it. I mean, you mentioned the Canaries, Tony, and actually I had the CEO of EasyJet Holidays on one of these last week, and he mentioned it in the same vein, really, like very, very concerned that if there isn't a, regionalised sort of opening there, that's one of the things we've been asking for, isn't it? That instead of these blanket bans, but we have some kind of regionalised approach. He was saying that he was very worried for the winter because obviously the Canaries is so crucial for our market. How worried are you? Are you still booking to the Canaries, or are you in the hope that there's going to be this sort of regionalised sort of corridor, or what are you doing?
We've just held back on marketing for the Canaries, and we're just marketing what I suppose a lot of the last minute things for now. So we've not put too much for Canaries for the winter. But yeah, for us, it's a massive seller. You know, Tenerife and Lanzarote and Gran Canaria was in our top 5 of what we sell throughout the year. So in a way, it kind of thinks, I mean, obviously we're on about last minute here, but it's kind of, we might not have anything to sell quite soon. at the last minute. Look, I have written this year off in that sense, but it would still be a massive heartache that if it didn't come back, and a massive blow, just for us to keep continuing through that winter of doing some sales and some commission. Yeah, it'd be huge for us, huge for the area, you know, and obviously because 10 minutes from Leeds Bradford Airport, Jet2 are obviously based in Leeds, so it's absolutely massive, and it's confidence, isn't it? You know, you see little things and it just gives you that little bit of hope. So Portugal coming back give us that little bit of hope to keep going forward. But yeah, it'd be huge.
And I know you're not having conversations with the government, I realise that, but I know you've got close relations with your suppliers and things. So I mean, do you feel confident that the government is listening a little bit more? Gemma's instantly shaking her head. But and Tony, so maybe I don't even need to continue the question. Gemma, tell me what you're thinking.
I suppose with my ATO hat on, we have not with me as Haslemere Travel, but with my ATO hat on, we have much more of an inroad into the government, and ATO, along with the other associations, including ABTA and the consortia, have been, you know, banging on the door since March. You know, this is not a new thing that the industry is trying to talk to the government. We've been trying to do it for a long time to avoid situations like this. I don't think any of us, I think we all thought that the hard bit was lockdown. Lockdown was the hard bit. No one could travel anywhere. It was really, really hard and really, really horrid. But at least when no one could travel anywhere, there wasn't this back and forth. And then, of course, we open up various parts of the world. Then we take them back. Then we take others back. Then we release others forward. And it's just this, there's no joined up thinking. And there's no consideration for the overall impact of what is happening. And
well, you said you can't plan your cash flow. You can't do any planning. You've got no idea how to balance your books. It must be really
difficult. On a wider scale than that, talking about, you know, beyond our individual little businesses, I'm talking about from the government's perspective of what happens when the end of furlough, you know, when we come to the end of furlough, what happens if we keep going back and forth with the on-off with all these different countries and we don't open up some more longer haul or mid-haul destinations. You've all read this before, but the UK outbound travel industry contributes £37 billion to the exchequer. That's not a few quid, that's more than farming and fishing together. And if they don't have that, who's going to plug that hole? So nobody seems to consider that for a start. What happens when, you know, there are mass redundancies, which very sadly there will be more redundancies to come? What happens when more ATOL holders fail? Who pays for that? And it's just this lack of joined up thinking of the bigger picture of it all, and using the guise that they're trying to keep, you know, everyone in the UK safe, and it's all about health, and it's all about levels of COVID infection and all this kind of stuff, which to me is an utter load of rubbish, because if it was about that, we'd have shut our borders from the beginning. So we shut our border, we kept our borders open when everyone was locked in their homes, and as soon as you know, they let them out of their homes, they mess around with the borders. It just doesn't make any sense. So, you know, let Tom, Dick and Harry in for 3 months and then not let us out. The larger scale implication of these little measures that change on a weekly basis is catastrophic. And it's the fact that nobody is thinking about that, about how they all nobody's connecting the dots. Nobody in government is connecting the dots. And that's what's really frustrating, because we're all doing our absolute utmost to look after our clients, keep our businesses going, look at how we can bring our staff back. How can we keep our businesses surviving and thriving, you know, over the next few months and into next year? But our industry as a whole, nobody's even looking at it, and nobody's even taking care of it. And that's really sad when it is such a massive part of our economy.
Yeah, well, you mentioned two sort of very important, you know, dates coming up. We've got the ATOL renewals, and then we've got the end of furlough. So we've got two, I guess, real pinch points there. And then you've got stories we've run this week about travel agents that are having to put their shops, or the majority of their shops, in hibernation, they've called it, you know, literally just not going to be able to run them through the winter, and they're hibernating their businesses. I mean, from speaking to you guys, it doesn't sound like you're going to have to do that. I mean, Charles is actually being brave and you know, and yeah, and you're looking ahead, and you'll say you're taking that gamble. But I mean, do you worry for the industry, Charles, like, you know, the end of September and October? Do you think that's going to become a very difficult time for the industry?
Yeah, I do. I think Gemma's right. I think it's been I mean, at best from the government, it's been firefighting. At worst, it just hasn't been fighting at all. It's one thing to another, and we're now at a stage where we need to be looking strategically and long term for this industry, because it is hugely valuable to the government in terms of the exchequer, but the health and well-being of everyone here as well. I mean, you can't just let the travel industry sort of die. It provides so much for so many people who work in it and who use it. And I think there does need to be a long-term view, and I think the government does need to look at particular sectors. At the moment, it's been a blanket, well, we'll provide furlough support for everyone, and then you've had some companies who are doing so well, they've voluntarily not taken the furlough, they've not taken some of the tax breaks. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got certain sectors who are hit so much harder that they need support for longer. And they're in industries where furlough hasn't necessarily been completely appropriate. We've all known that a lot of our people, we've had to keep on to service customers, and we've been working in some ways harder than we were before. And so I understand the one size fits all knee jerk, it's a crisis, that needs to be done. But now we've had time to think and consider. I think the government should be looking more strategically, longer term, and identifying sectors within the economy that need particular help, because it's going to.
And are you hopeful that they will? I mean, we're all arguing. We all want that to happen. Nobody's not going to agree with that. And ABTA have reiterated their campaign that they launched back in March. Save future travel. They've now highlighted the number of jobs. But we're not been listened to yet.
Sorry, Lucy. If it takes the government 4 months to finally admit that a refund credit note is an enforceable ATOL-backed entity, a piece of paper,
which it always was.
4 months, and other people in other agencies and other governments in Europe were signing it off almost overnight. I mean, what hope have we got for the time it's going to take for them to come up with anything sort of strategic for the industry as a whole? I just, unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, I just think we all need to assume the government isn't really going to help, and while we can all fight for it and we can all lobby, and I've written to MPs and all sorts, and we've all done our bit, and we try and go through voices like ABTA. I think it's hope for the best, but it's planned for the worst. You've got to assume that, unfortunately.
So assume that we're not going to get state aid. Sort out your businesses as best you can, and if it does come, then that would be a bonus, because. And I think, actually, we have spoken to a few people now who've said anyone that is just banking on that coming, that's not a good strategy. I mean, you're shaking your head, Gemma.
Yeah, I agree. I've always I've looked at it from the beginning of how can we manage with worst case scenario, and I've tried to plan for that. So I think, I'm quite realistic about how things are, and then if they're better than that, then it's wonderful. But then it doesn't mean that I'm disappointed, and it doesn't mean that as a business we're then faced with decisions to make that we hadn't planned on, or hadn't at least thought about and worked out what would happen with that. So yeah, I've been very sort of open-eyed since the very beginning into just the scale of this all, and I just think that, as everyone said, it's such a shame that no one can see it. I'm slightly hopeful that once the kids go back to school in the next week or so, that we're over GCSEs, we're over A levels, and getting kids back to school, and what the government is kind of working on at the moment.
Other priorities,
yeah. And I do kind of think that perhaps we then might get a window of opportunity to find some stability with the government, but that's it's a long shot.
The summer will be well and truly over by then. That'll be that's the problem. It's that they needed to help us if they were going to a lot sooner.
Start thinking about it when we went into lockdown, and they didn't.
Yeah.
And then they've obviously put so much money into schemes like this Eat Out to help out. £500 million into that, which would have been really helpful for the travel industry or lots of other industries. But it's very. It's helping people that possibly don't necessarily need the help, people that are really suffering financially, and not the ones that can go and eat out anyway. So saving a tenner off their meal doesn't really make a difference, because they're not going to be going out in the first place. So that could have been more helpful, that money, if it was there and freely available, could have helped our industry for a start, or, you know, been shared with another industry that's, you know, lacking in support. But
yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm conscious of time, but I just want to pick up on one thing, because individually you've all mentioned it at some stage, but you've talked about health and well-being and dealing with this nonsense and the sort of, you know, how mental it can be. You've met all those words, I've written them down as you've mentioned them. You know, I mean, you come on here, you guys, and you know what you're doing. You're great business people, and you sound like you're, you know, quite optimistic today. But I mean, how has it affected you and your staff and other people you know in travel? I mean, we've launched with ABTA Lifeline this Travel Cares campaign to try and raise money, because obviously there's lots of people who really are struggling and have lost their jobs. There's probably going to be quite a few more. I mean, you know, how tough a time, you know, and how are you really handling it? I'm going to come to you, Tony. I mean, you're always very jolly and you're great to have on here, but I mean, you know, do you know people that are, you know, has it been a really real struggle for people?
Yeah, you know, I think the thing is, it is a real struggle, you know, and I try always to think I could have it worse. You know, that's how I look at everything and think, well, it could be worse. But actually, deep down, it's absolutely got to me. You know, closing the door when we first went into lockdown was heart-wrenching. It just absolutely. And it was really difficult. You know, I found it really difficult at home. You know, I still struggle, even though I'll always try and look at the positive, because if I look back, I feel I crumble. You know, so I try and think, well, okay, that's happened, but it could be worse. You know, and that's the only way, because I need to move forward and not go back. But actually, it's been, as it is for everybody, really, really difficult. And do I worry? Absolutely, I do worry. You know, and you know, I speak to other people, you know, it is the pressure that people are under, and you know, through the actions of others as well. That's the thing. It's terrible. It's like even not knowing. I still feel now I'm walking around and I don't know what, you know, every day I don't know what day it is. You know, it's and somebody says, you know, it's September next week. Is it really? And it really does. It's like I'm in a complete fuzz all the time. So you've got to try and, yeah, I try and look forward. But I can totally see how it's been so, yeah, I've never known anything like it, to be honest. We've been through all sorts, and, you know, through, you know, just normal life, but normal life is hard at the moment. So yeah, it's really hard. But for me, I just try and think. I think I drive my wife mad when I keep saying, well, it could be worse. And she kind of says, well, how can it be worse? But, you know, I've got to try and look at that. But yeah, absolutely. It's going to have a toll on everybody. You know, that's the thing. Absolutely everybody. There can't be many people who will come out and it's not affected them deep down in some way. And I absolutely do know it is. So, but I'll flip the other way and think it's not going to beat me. That's the other thing, you know, nobody's going to beat me. The government's not going to beat me by not supporting us and helping out just because of their stupidity of, you know, even though it's going to cost them money by not helping us. Ridiculous. Common sense should prevail. But I still keep thinking, you're not going to beat me. We'll continue and we'll get through it. But yeah, hard, very hard.
Well, nearly got you on one of your rants there, Tony. He always starts off very measured, and by the end of these, he goes off on one. I thought you were going to go then, the stupid government, but kept it in. What about the other two? You know, and people you know, and people in your business. Has it been tough? Do you think it's going to be worse? Have we got more to come?
I cope okay. I got my.
Well, it is the afternoon now, so
yeah. But
I'm going to put this out tomorrow morning, Charles, and you're going to look like a complete. I'm going to put this out on our 9 a.m. alert, and you're going to look like you're drinking.
This was from. I was working till about 11:30 last night, and I treated myself to one of those while I was doing it. I just haven't cleared up yet. I think as a business owner, I think you just, this is what you get. For me, the attitude I've taken is, this is what I get paid for. This is it's tough, it's awful. There's huge challenges that you have to confront every day. But while the business was doing really well, I was perfectly happy taking a nice salary and dividends and all that sort of stuff. And now when the brown stuff hits rotating stuff, for me, I just have a word with myself, and I just crack on. But I do have to be very, very conscious that there are a lot of people in our company who have got all sorts of challenges inside and outside the travel business, and we've tried to be mindful of that right from the get-go. And so even before lockdown in March, we announced £100,000 support fund if we had any home workers of ours who were financially going to struggle over the next sort of coming months. And that was before the government announced the self-employed help scheme and everything. And we've had people take us up on that, and hopefully that's supported them. And where we've had to claw back.
Oh, we still got you, Gemma. Tony, have I got anyone?
I'm still here.
You're still here. Well, we've lost Charles for a minute, right when he was in full flow, and it looks like Gemma's frozen as well. Well, listen, I'm gonna look at the watch. I think. Oh, Charles, have we got you back?
Oh, did you? I think you lost me there. Sorry, did you?
We lost you. Gemma froze. It was just Tony and I were just about to have a little chat between us.
No, I won't go on because I'm getting conscious of time. But yeah, we try and be conscious with home workers, helping them out financially, helping them out emotionally. We've got a support team and everything like that. So, but as Winston Churchill said, when you're going through hell, you just keep going, don't you? Because otherwise you're never going to get out the other side. So yeah, it's horrible, but as Tony says, you've just got to keep going and not let it beat you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, did you want the final word, Gemma? I don't want to miss you out. How are you faring okay?
Yeah, I think so. I think I echo what both Charles and Tony say. I think through all of it, I've always been super optimistic about the fact that, of all the industries to work in, travel isn't so bad. We've all had some, it provides us with some great perks, and we have been very lucky over the years to work, and be able to travel as we do. But it's also something that when you are faced with a crisis like this, and for our clients who've faced equal amounts of struggles as we have with their own businesses or their own jobs, people do look to have a holiday as a way of getting over things. And, if we can just sort out the government restrictions, I really do think that there's, huge promise for the travel industry, because, it's not a necessity to go on holiday, but for some people, they see it as a necessity. It is, it's a luxury item. You don't have to have one. But a lot of people have one annual holiday or a couple of trips, or they break it down in another way. So, we are in the best place when people are going to be looking to get themselves out the other side of this situation. They're going to be turning to professionals like us, and we just have to hang on in there. And when the dark days are dark, you ring up your other travel agency friend and who's having a good day, and you get them to cheer you up. And you talk to a member of your family. You share. I mean, the amount of conversations I've had. I
think that's why people love these. Yeah, I'm obviously getting CEOs and stuff on, and that's fantastic because we want their insight and their thoughts. But when I get the agent ones on, the viewing figures for these are fantastic. And I think people really want to hear other people and their challenges that you're all dealing with, because it makes them feel like they're not alone. So, that's why we're so grateful for you coming on and sharing your experiences and being so honest. And but I know we finished on a little bit of a sad note, but Gemma, you picked us up in the end because you said there is promise, and you've all talked about your optimism. I'm waiting to see your gambles. I hope they pay off. It's just fantastic to have you all on again. So thank you to Tony from Idle Travel, to Charles from Holidaysplease, and to Gemma from Haslemere Travel and from ATO Agents. Get back on the beers, everyone. Get on it. All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.